Jenny from Just Being Me, and you're listening to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, the show that inspires you to put yourself first.
Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness. Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness.
My very first book, Just Being You, is out soon. It's a guide for anyone who's tired of people-pleasing, second-guessing themselves, or feeling like they just don't matter. Inside, I share the tools and shifts that help me rebuild my self-belief. Because when you shift your self-belief, well, that shifts everything. If you want to know when it's coming out, I'll drop a link below and you'll be the first to know. Welcome back to the podcast. It is such a special one for me today because I have the absolute joy to be with Aisling Gray, who is the producer of this podcast. And we're together on this very special day because it is our 2nd year anniversary. And I say our 2nd year anniversary because without Aisling, this podcast would not be here. It may be in the future, but it definitely wouldn't be here now. Aisling is the person who has got me through all of this of understanding what I'm got to do. So welcome and thank you, Aisling.
Oh, Jenny, thank you. Can you believe it? 2 years.
I know. 2 years. How?
Just thinking about it, 'cause I remember when we were starting together and you were like, I can't remember where we met in a mastermind group or something. And I want to start a podcast.
Yes.
And then here we are.
Yeah. And you know, me being, neurodivergent, I tend to say these things. Oh, I want to do that and actually not really think them through because actually starting a podcast was a bit more than I thought, because initially I was trying to do it myself, wasn't I, with you alongside me. And eventually it got to a place of me going, no, I don't know what I'm doing here. You're going to need to actually walk me through, and you've walked me through ever since.
No, and so when you think back to that, what were you thinking? Where did you think the podcast would go?
I'm not sure that I'm that forward a thinker. I'm not sure that that's how I was thinking at the time, because even now I look at it and I think to myself, okay, we're moving things along, things are changing, but I'm very much a now person. What pops into my head now, even when I'm recording my podcast, it'll be around, this has come into my head. I need to get this out. This would be a really good podcast. And it's very much a now. I don't sit there and think, I'm going to do this one on this day and this one on this day. It literally is a kind of now thing. But I if anything, that it was a hope that people could connect with me, with the stuff that I've learned, the stuff that I've experienced, and that would make a difference in their world. But I don't think there was any strategic behind it at all.
And I was going to say then, what was your expectation that people would get from it? But I've said to you before that I'm so lucky producing the podcast. Every week I have you in my ear, and I'm always thinking, oh my God, that makes everything resonates. So I'm so lucky. What do you hope that people would get from it? Looking back then to now, do you think it's evolved at all?
Yeah, I think it's evolved, and I think it's going to evolve even more, because it's very much more because of your feedback of it being in your ear and hearing, and how much more you got from hearing me rather than guests. We have slowly got to the place now where it's pretty much me with the occasional guest. If I meet somebody that I think is particularly inspiring and interesting, then we get them jumping on. But it's more about how people can move themselves forward. And if by just having me in their ear for, 5 to 10 minutes a week, that does something for somebody. Because a lot of what I talk about is about consistency, because we're only actually in, conscious control of 5% of what goes on in our brains. Everything else is in automation. Therefore, if you don't have that consistency of listening to the podcast or doing the things that I suggest doing, or, looking at how you're being, if you aren't consistent with that, you're just going to go back to what it used to be. So I think that for me is a big thing going forward, in particular, is looking at, okay, acknowledging yeah, these things are not good and I don't like them. But why? Because the answer is within you. And by consistently looking at the stuff that I put out on social media, by consistently, watching listening to the podcast, or, the podcast is, we take the words from the podcast and make it into a blog. So if you're a reader, not a listener, you've got all the different ways to do it. You get to know yourself a lot better because you'll recognize yourself in there somewhere in one of those things. And then those are the moments, without judgment, without blame, that you start then going, oh, okay, if I consistently keep looking at this, I can make a difference in my own life. I don't need somebody to do it for me. And I kind of hear that from you. I kind of hear that because you do get my words. You get a lot of my words in your ear each week. You get my ideas in your ears as well that nobody else really hears until it actually comes to fruition. You get some of the ideas where we go, no, don't do that. That's ridiculous. Having said that out loud, that don't work. Or you'll be able to say to me, that's not going to work in this situation. So you get all of those things that are going on in my head as well. And I'm not sitting here saying that I am the one that knows all. I'm just sitting here saying, I've experienced this. I've done it.
Yeah.
I get how it feels.
Yeah.
And this is a way to make it not feel so shite. This is a way to make you are in control of what happens in your life. And when we look at your journey and where you are after 2 years, that massively shows through, doesn't it? Massively shows through, to the point where you're in a completely different country now, because now you know what you can do and how you can do that. And you understand that you can support yourself to do that.
And that's what your support, because I do work with you on the other shoes on the other foot, where I weren't one with you, and thinking back as well, how you remember sitting down and looking at the calendar and you saying to me, well, what date are you going to Spain?
Yeah.
And I remember that, I keep thinking back that, and me going, oh my God, I can't even think about that. But you helped me sitting down, going through that process. That's
such a big reality for so many people, isn't it? In the fact that actually they have a decision, oh, I want to do this. A bit like me, I want to do a podcast. So your next question was, when should we meet? So then I have to put a date on it. Mm-hmm. So if you have a goal, when you start putting a date on when do you want to achieve that goal by, which is what we did, wasn't it? Actually, sitting in your one-to-one, we actually sat there and worked through backwards. When do you need to do this by? When do you need to do that by? Because you knew the date that you wanted to go. Yeah, and that's the same thing for anybody. If you know that you want to change something, if you don't like your job and you want to leave your job, and you know when you want to do it by, what have you got? What are the steps? So that's the date I've got to do it. What are the steps that you've got to do? And when have you got to do them by? If you want to change how you're feeling, if you want to leave a partner, if you want to make any difference in your life, you have to have the end goal. What's the difference that you want to make? And you have to know what that is so that you can work backwards from it.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to do that with the kids as well. Like
ripple effect.
Everything I'm learning now, I try to, even like one of the kids wants to be an influencer. I don't go, you're not going to be an influencer. I said, what do you need to do to get there?
Yeah.
What could you do? What would you need to learn? So it's just trying to.
And how does that make you feel when you say those words? How does that make you feel? Because if he's saying, I want to be an influencer, and it doesn't make him feel anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't really want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
That's, it's words coming out of mouth, but, exploring around that, which is basically what my work is. You say words and I ask you questions to explore around that, because that way you get your answers rather than me giving them to you. I will always give you support, obviously, but when you find your own answers, you were the person that said, oh, I want to move by this date. So what have you got to do in between? Oh, I've got to do this. What date have you got to do? Okay. So realistic. So in your own head, you're working out the dates when you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you're doing it. And that is kind of what I hope people get from the podcast, is just a little bit of, if you do this, this is going to happen. And asking some of those questions.
Yeah.
How does that feel? And to know that's out to the big wide world is massive. It's like, oh my goodness, when you come and we meet, on our just general podcast calls, and you give me analytics and those sorts of things, and I'm like, wow, okay,
because it's big. I'm just little old me who's had this experience in my life and worked out how to make that better for myself. You know, gone away, got the training. And that's always been my big thing, is the fact that actually I don't want anybody to have to feel like I did, in particular on their own. Because it's not a nice way to feel. It's not a nice way to feel. And knowing that I had the choice in that, once I knew I had the choice in that I had the power to change that changed everything. So the podcast is such a big way to get things out there. Just go and find it. And, you know, it's not me saying, go watch this or go listen to this. You know, it's thinking about it now is making me go, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
big moment.
I just keep thinking back. So I just remember the first meeting and you were nervous. Kind of like what I was today. I was nervous about, and here I am telling you what to do. It's so funny. And look at you now, like it's great to see.
It is, because it's not just, you know, because we started the podcast pretty much as I started the actual business. So it's grown with me in the business. And it's, you know, it's moved along the line. So it's kind of like a timeline of what's been going on for me in my business as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah, that's a good thing for your podcast and your business to evolve, isn't it?
It's really interesting. I was talking to somebody else the other day who's had a business for years and years and years, and she said, you know, I must get round to creating a podcast. And I was like, oh, it's one of the first things I did. You know, and I think, fortunately for me, finding you and being the sort of person I am is, well, let's just do it and we'll work it out as we go along, rather than too much thought process into it. Because if I put too much thought process into it, I just don't do it. So therefore, you know, just do it. It's not going to be perfect. Let's work it out as we go along. You know, there are some of my that I occasionally listen back to and think, oh, because you're listening to yourself, aren't you? That's normal. That's natural. You know, but the feedback I get from people, and it still makes me go, oh my goodness, people are listening. People are listening.
And you're having an effect on people, and
yeah.
And
you know, that means I'm having an effect on people that I don't even know I'm having an effect on.
When you look at your lessons as well, like the countries we've looked at, we're like, oh my God.
And I mean, I know that when the first time one came up from being in Belgium, I'm going, oh, that's my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law's listening. But it's more than that now, because we get more in those countries. It's not just, you know, friends and relatives listening. It is having an effect. And, you know, that big ripple effect on me, because, you know, you've just said yourself, the effect you've had by learning alongside me, you're passing on to your children. And that's the ripple effect, which is very nicely the cover of my book that will be published on the 1st of December. So if anybody wants to know about that, we'll put a link down below for you to get onto the waiting list for information about that. So that's there as well. Because, yeah, it's very much about the ripple effect of, you know, if one person feels a little bit better, then somebody that's around them is going to feel better as well. And that rippling out and creating those boundaries means that people know how to treat you. And therefore, then they will start treating you in the way, you know, it's such a ripple effect. It's such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I get from listening to your or working on your podcast, is the kind of like breaking the cycle. There's so many things I can see now from when me growing up that I'm trying to now change with the kids, from listening to all that, like asking the questions, like, is it true? What have you? One of the things you always remember you've said to me before, and I use it a lot: what will happen if you do, and what will happen if you don't? So I've got my toolkit of all things. Like, even moving here, there was like times that, like, it was stressful, and how many times did I just have to talk to myself and ask my questions to myself, just to try and keep myself calm. So,
and that means that you are in control. You've got the power. You make the decisions because you're asking yourself the questions. So, you know, you're having a reaction, and that knee-jerk reaction to it, once the emotion kicks off, you then get the reaction, and that's a subconscious reaction that's being kicked off and it's going on for you. But if you stop and ask yourself, is that real? Is it true? Is this as big as I think it is? How do I really feel about this? If you stop and ask yourself all those questions, then you're bringing it into the conscious and stopping it from being an automatic reaction. And so often what you find is that you're reacting in a way because of something that happened many, many years ago. And that's just how you've learned to live, in a survival mode. It's just a survival mode, and it's just come forward with you. And the moment you choose to say, I don't need to do that anymore because I'm not in that situation anymore, then something's different. And it only needs to be the tiniest of steps. Doesn't need to be a big thing. Tiniest of steps changes everything. Well, we're going to make a change, aren't we, Ashlyn? We're going to make a change because we have thought long and hard, looked into all of this, and decided that it's time to change the name of the podcast. And it's going to be called the Self-Belief Podcast, because everything that I do, I don't know if anybody can, if you are seeing this, you might see my poster behind me that talks about self-belief, because self-belief shifts everything. And the difference between self-belief and confidence is that self-belief is an internal and confidence is an external doing. So once you get your self-belief, so you can be confident in something. So you might be a really good, I don't know, basketball player, and you're really confident about that, but you might not have self-belief in yourself. So you can be confident without having self-belief. And that's the key thing to get into place, is self-belief. Once you get that self-belief into place, that doesn't mean to say that life is always going to be pretty and lovely and really easy, because life's not like that. But it does mean to say that whatever is happening, you will cope with it. And you're a perfect example of that, from arriving in a different country and it all being very, very stressful. Just before.
Laughing because I literally freewheeled through events, but I did arrive.
Yes, you arrived, but you could have let your brain take you and say, "Oh, no, do you know what? We won't do that this year. We'll do it next year."
Yeah.
You could have said that, but this is what you wanted, and you said, "No, I can do this."
Yeah.
It's not easy, but I can do it.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah,
done.
it's
Massive
crazy.
pats on back. Massive pats on back.
And the kids started school as well today, and they were nervous, and I was like, it's okay to be like, but before, like, I'm so glad that I speak to them like that. That's as well, just,
And
you
it's
know,
amazing,
okay.
isn't it? I know through all of my experiences that I was still very, very much in victim mode, blaming everybody else and making judgments, and when I was bringing my children up. And I'm now in a position where I'm, my children are adults, and looking and trying to guide and work with the ripple effect of the effect of me being in victim mode as a mother, because your children look to you and they mirror what you do. We can all look at ourselves and go, oh my God, that's my mum or my dad, or, somebody that's prominent in your life, because we mirror that, we take that on board. So if we are actually giving them a chance to believe in themselves from a very young age, then life is a lot easier. And it's key for kids to have that perspective from their parents, because they're going to follow that through as well.
Yeah. It's mind blown, isn't it? Like,
Absolutely. But it's the silly thing for me is it's mind blowing, but once you know it, you can't not know it. You can choose to not know it because you don't want to do anything about it, but that's your choice. And at that point, when you choose to do nothing about it, that's your responsibility. It isn't so-and-so down the road. It isn't your partner. It isn't your kids. It isn't your parents. Once you know and you choose not to, that's your choice. That's your responsibility.
yeah.
So it's the knowing. Once you know it, it's so much easier with the next ones on, because I'm still on my journey. It doesn't, I'm not in a place of perfection by any stretch of the imagination. But the difference for me now is I find something that doesn't feel right, and I know that I need to go and deal with that. Now, sometimes I can work on that myself quite easily. Sometimes, like yesterday, when I found something and I was like, this is not okay, that doesn't feel right, I need to sort that out. And I couldn't get myself past that. I got straight onto my coach and was just like, okay, what can we do about this? Because I know that I need to move past that. It's also quite exciting because I know that I'm going to move past another thing.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm still sitting here thinking 2 years, 2 years.
And so yeah, it's crazy. One that I wanted to say thank you to you as well for trusting me way back. I think it doesn't feel like work, so it's great. And I was thinking, like, I was going through questions to prepare for today, and I was thinking about like something that happens in the background, and all the times we've gotten off calls in stitches because of Alexa interrupted.
How many Alexas are now going to be going off?
Or something got lost in translation of an Irishism or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have to say it's a very easy job to do working alongside you, but that's my key thing. Very high up in my values is connection. And if I don't connect with somebody, I might work with somebody for a little bit, but if I don't connect with somebody, I'm going to be moving on because I can't function in that way. I mean, as you say, you and I have had some humdinger of completely different conversations going, especially when we're doing it on message, whereby you're saying one thing and I'm replying to a completely different conversation. Because like you have sayings in Ireland that I have never, the long finger. I mean, what does that mean? I just didn't know what she talking about, the long finger. But because we're connected, because we function well alongside each other, means that we achieve, and we achieve with laughter and joy, even on those moments when, because let's be honest, when you're working one-to-one with me, it's not always joyful, is it? Because sometimes I'm poking places that aren't nice place to poke, but until we get those out in the open, we can't get past them. But because we have that connection, we do get through that. We do get past that. And that's why I have my free call to start with, to see that there's the connection, not just with me to the person, but the person to me. It has to work both ways. And I think it's really important to establish that in the beginning. Because I don't want anybody to be getting along the line, and I have worked with people in the past where I'm thinking, no, this isn't working because we're not connecting. You're not trusting me to go there.
yeah, and so trust is a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how your podcast as well can help people get to know you. So that can help your business. Yeah. Because they're listening to you, you're in their ear, and it might not be for everybody, or somebody might just go,
thank goodness, because I couldn't cope. It will be for the right people.
Yes, exactly.
It will be for the people. I was talking to somebody the other day who was quoting me all these sorts of research about, NLP, about toxic relationships, about, trauma, and quoting me all these papers. And I just ended up saying, that's kind of not me. Yeah, I know and understand the research. I look at the summaries of it, but most of what I know comes from, I've had this experience, I felt like this, what's the research behind it? I don't go off and look at all the different researches. It's just not me. I'm not a big word person. I like to I write as I talk, because the podcasts come out that way. And I'm not saying that I don't use research, because I do use research, but it's not the thing that excites me to go and look at that. I mean, I got very excited when I discovered how close all the signs and symptoms between trauma and ADHD are, and how do you tell the difference? And maybe it's a bit of both. And is there more trauma because you are neurodivergent, because you don't function in the way our systems function in this world? Does that cause trauma? That excited me, but I would rather go and listen to somebody talk about it than go reading research. So, there are people out there who just love to do the research side of things. They will naturally go to somebody that will sit down and go, yeah, in this piece of work at this point in time, in this chapter, in this bullet point, this person said this. You can't be for everybody. So I'm much more about simple words. Let's get how it feels, not what the research says, because the research is also looking at a lot of people, not just you.
That's true. Yep.
And that's why this is called Just Being Me, because I spent a lot of time with people telling me that I need to be something they want, and that meant I couldn't be me.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about my own confidence levels in being me, because that's massively different from when we first started working together as well, isn't it? Yeah. And your confidence levels on just, when you were doing that particular podcast and you were learning something about how to do it, you went on a course and there was words were coming out of your mouth. I had no idea what they meant, but you were so lit up, beautiful to watch. No idea what you're talking about, but I was just entranced with how your body and how you reacted to everything, because you were obviously passionate about what it was you were talking about.
We're all different, and we're all different interests, and I'm a geek.
So what do we expect for the next bit of the podcast? We expect the new name.
Yeah.
And we've been testing that, or I say we, the royal we, you've been testing that to see, you've been putting that in the SEO
And the meta,
and seeing how that's reacted, and it's reacted really well, hasn't it? Because what we want to do, the name, when we first started, in my head the name's just a nice thing, but it's not, is it? It's a way people find us. So by testing this, we're hoping that it's going to get out to more people, and more people will get on and subscribe and thing.
Yeah, and grow and get in front of more people, and you're going to change your format a bit. Yeah. And how
So we're, little bit, we've slid in little changes anyway, haven't we, over the 2 years, because we do things, try it out, that's not working, let's try something else. And what we've noticed is that it works. We get excluding a few, but we get better figures when it's just me talking than when I have a guest in. There have been certain guests where it's just blown out of the water, but it is about getting the information that people need or want out there, isn't it?
Yeah, and well in front of people.
Yeah.
So they can see how you work as well, because that's important. Like you say, that they might go, you're for me or you're not. So and
that's okay. If you're not for me, that's really okay. Please, I hope you've enjoyed hearing me, Ashlyn, chatting, but I'm happy to go away. If you're not for me, then that's absolutely okay. Good with that, because you can't be for everybody. So, but I am so looking forward to seeing where it goes over the next year, and sitting here in a year's time with
3 years again,
doing the same thing of just looking back. And because we didn't do it for the first year, did we? It kind of slid by us, really.
Yeah.
It kind of slid by us, and we weren't.
That's why I was looking at the date. I was thinking, is it 1 year?
Yeah.
Because I remember you saying last year was a year.
If you said it was 1 year, I'd have said, oh yeah, right, okay. I wouldn't, I can't believe it's that far down the line.
So what do you think then for 3 years in the next year? I know it's going to evolve and nobody knows, but what do you feel like you want to happen with the podcast and your business? And
well, definitely for the business, it is niching down even more so into very much speaking from the place of people who've been in toxic relationships. And that's may well be the reason why I'm not using domestic abuse, is because people don't associate being bullied by their boss or having a toxic relationship with a friend as domestic abuse, which it isn't, because domestic abuse has to have a familial relationship, which is why I talk about toxic relationships, because what I know is that throughout my life I've left things knowing that they're not right, and it's not a place that I want to be. What I didn't recognize was I've left that relationship, but I carried the patterns on. As I say, choose the right word? I continued being in victimhood, even though I wasn't in that sort of relationship anymore, because I hadn't dealt with what was laying underneath. I hadn't dealt with those beliefs, those limiting beliefs that have been in place from when I was a young child. And when you have limiting beliefs, that's what you go in with that expectation to any relationship. So, you take on board, you accept, you relive the patterns, those limiting self-beliefs. And when you don't have those limiting self-beliefs, you have different types of relationships. And it's not always about major things. It just might be, God, I find it really difficult to get on with my mum. That's a toxic relationship because it's got a limiting belief somewhere sat in there, and we can change that. So my business is now beginning to very much shift into understanding how those limiting beliefs play out. And I'm guessing from that, because it'll be, oh, this has popped into my head, I'm going to talk about this. That's exactly where the podcast will go as well, because, you know, there are so many people that accept so many, you know, relationships in work are classic, you know, toxic relationships in work that we just don't need to be having. And that comes from the boss side and from the employee side, you know, looking at that. I'm trying to get off the ground some work within companies to understand how you need to look at people and employees. You know, you're not just the person that pays. Just because you pay the bill doesn't mean to say you could treat people, you know, badly. So that's the direction that the business is traveling in at the moment. We, of course, have got, so the book will come out on the 1st of December. We'll put a link down below for that. We also have an in-person day. So I do some work with the very lovely Nikki Marshall, who's been on the podcast. She's also an NLP coach, and we do an in-person day, and we've got that running on the 14th of November. So if anybody wants to come to that, please get in touch. You know,
Where's that? Because I am going to make one.
Funny enough, it's in Exeter,
Okay.
not far from the airport. So we have deliberately picked a venue that is right by the park and ride, so that you can get, because Exeter's in Devon, for those of you that don't know, because I live in Devon. So you can come in by plane from wherever you want in the country, because we have flights down from Manchester and Scotland and what have you coming down into Exeter. We have flights from Spain. And you can then get a bus across to the park and ride, and the venue's just there, or you can come by train and you can get on the park and ride again outside the train station, come by bus, you can drive because we have a car park. So we've very much this time looked at ways, how can people come, because Devon's not an easy place to get to for a lot of people. I know that because it's not very easy for me to get to places. I have to work things out to get to places. It's not like living somewhere like London where you can just jump onto something, you know. So we've done our very, very best to get that available. But that's going to be an amazing day. That's going to be, because Nikki and I, although we're very, very different coaches, we also work really complementary together. So you get the best of both of us in that day. It's going to be, I'm really looking forward to that. And it's a small day. It's not a lot of big people. So, you know, you're going to get a lot of us one-to-one, because we're going to be there with you. So those are the two direct things that are happening in the rest of this year. And then next year, bigger and better. Next year, looking to take things a bit further. Next year, possibly some speaking stuff. Am I saying that? You know, yeah, possibly some speaking stuff. And yeah, extending the journey, see where we go next. You know, the book is going to be something that means it can get out there to a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah.
2 years ago, did you think you'd be
Uh,
podcaster, writing a book?
No. Sitting publicly saying that I'm going to go and do speaking, no, because all of these things are things that have always been there, kind of dreaming, because podcasting is a bit like speaking, isn't it? They're kind of dreaming about it, thinking, you know, in my daydreams, but then thinking, oh, I couldn't do that. And actually I can. And I've proved that because I've just written the book.
Yeah.
You know, so the book, as we speak, the book is with the person that is creating the cover. So we are at that stage because it is due to be published on the 1st of December through Amazon. So, yeah. Exciting.
1 year on from here, oh God, okay. We will look at that. We'll have to replay this next year and see.
And see what we thought was going to happen and actually what did happen. Because you think some things are meant to be, and you can decide you're going to do something, unless it's really valuable to you, you won't make it happen if it's not meant to be. So yeah, interesting. Aisling, thank you so much for today. Thank you for doing this with me, because I can remember saying to you, nobody's just going to want me to listen to me driveling on, just my voice, about 2 years. Having you to talk to, because you've traveled the whole journey with me, has been lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for trusting me and bringing me on the journey.
Well, you had to trust me too. It was a two-way thing, lovely. But it's connected and it's worked, and it's been a brilliant experience. And if anybody's thinking about starting up a podcast, talk to Ashlyn. I'm going to get Ashlyn to put her contact details down below, so that if anybody's considering doing a podcast, you can get in contact with her, because she's just flipping and amazing. She really is.
Thanks, Jen.
So, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for everybody listening to us today. And we look forward to bringing you up to date in a year's time when we know what's actually happened. Make sure you go and subscribe, and also make sure that you remember it's going to be called the Self-Belief Podcast.
Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.